And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Om Shanti, 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 Namaskar. Loving blessings to you all. Thank you very much for tuning in to the next Adronis live transmissions from Adronis, I should say, here on this special Friday. So I'm doing it on Friday today because this weekend is actually going to be pretty busy for me. So I might see if we can do the transmissions from Adronis webinars every second Friday from this point forward. So I will be keeping you guys in the loop regarding that. We're going to have another amazing conversation today with Adronis. And of course, very important, I'm just going to make sure that I do this before I forget, is just make sure I have the invite link for everybody here who is on YouTube. So to talk to Adronis on Zoom. Okay, and that is going to be going up on the YouTube chat. So this is just a reminder for everybody that is tuning in on YouTube right now, that if you do want to ask Adronis a question, you just need to be on our Zoom call, okay? So you'll see the pinned post on the chat on YouTube that I just posted there, and you'll see the link. So just go ahead and click on the link and you can be added to the room and you can ask questions to Adronis if you have the questions. And again, questions can be done through audio. Where basically Killian, who will be our moderator today, will let you in. Or if you want to just type a question in through the Zoom chat, just type on the Q&A button and type in your question there, and you'll be able to have a question there for Adronis. So again, welcome everybody on Zoom. Welcome everybody on YouTube. Again, it's going to be another great interaction today with Adronis. We're going to start off firstly with some warm-up exercises, but before we do that, I'd just like to invite Killian in. Killian, are you there?
I am, yes. Thank you, everyone, for being here again. And yes.
Sorry, Killian, your audio is cutting out.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Just remember to raise your hand if you would like to speak to Adronis directly. Otherwise, like Brad said, just go ahead and place that question in the Q&A section, not in the main chat. Thanks, guys.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, Killian. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and start off with some warm-up exercises. So very simple. First and foremost is we're just going to do some deep breathing. So just get yourselves nice and comfortable, nice and relaxed, making sure the spine is nice and straight. Place your hands upon the center of your chest. And we're just going to take a deep breath in and out through the mouth. Deep, sweeping, cleansing breaths. Deep breath in and deep breath out. One more time, deep breath in and deep breath out. Okay, very good. Now we're going to be switching to some heart rate variability breathing. We're just going to do 10 rounds of heart rate variability. So again, we're just going to be breathing into the nose for 4 seconds, breathing out the nose for 6 seconds. Okay, so breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last one, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and relax. Now we're just going to be doing a short meditation where you're just going to be aware of your source center. So just having your hands gently placed on your lap. I want you just to vibe into your own body. Vibe into your own energy. And just feel yourself moving deeper and deeper into the calmness, into the relaxation, into the centeredness of yourself. And when I say that word centeredness, that's the very important clue that you want to move into. When I'm saying just for you to center yourself, to go into that centeredness, just feel your center. It does not have to be a physical location within the body. It is your own center. It's that when you go there, you are in the center of your own source light. You are in the center of your own source essence. I want you just to feel yourself going there now. Just to go into your center. And that center is what you feel when you feel completely relaxed, completely calm, and completely at peace. When you are all of those things, you are at your center. As you are at your center, I want you to feel like you're just immersing yourself into that pure, divine, peaceful, perfect source center. The center of your source vibration. The source essence. And even beyond vibration, even beyond light, even beyond frequency, and even beyond essence, the complete and total stillness of the very beingness that you are. I want you just to feel yourself there and to just be there. Just for a minute. And just feel everything with your physical body relaxing and surrendering. Feel everything with your emotional energies relaxing and centering and surrendering. Feel everything with your mental aptitude, your mental energies relaxing, surrendering, and centering. Feel the very vital energy of yourself, relaxing, centering, and surrendering. And feel your entire being, all that you know yourself to be, relaxing, surrendering, and centering. And just know that this is exactly where true peace resides. This is the center, to where peace is, to where tranquility is, to where love and divinity is. Let us remember this as we go throughout our day, as we may have some ups and downs through the day. Just remember your center. Just remember something very simple that will help you to get there. It may just be saying that word, center. It may be just doing a gesture, center. It may be just thinking a thought, center. And remain there. That is where you are at your most powerful, because you are present. So take another deep breath in, another deep breath out, and relax. Okay. All right, everyone. One more demonstration we're going to do before I bring Adronis in is we're going to be doing Shogun once again. Okay. So I'll just stand up and we'll do Shogun together. Yeah, I'll step back here so you can see me, okay? All right. So you can see I have a little bit more stuff to the room, making it nice and bright. boxes out of the way. Okay, so again, with Shogun, I'm going to do 2 demonstrations for those of you who may be seeing it for the very first time, and then we'll be doing it together a total of 3 times. Okay. So as I've talked about, for those of you who have heard me talk about Shogun before, is if these are your feet, and basically what we're doing is we're creating a V and then stepping out. Okay, so you're just putting your feet together. This is like a top-down view. Okay, and you're just creating a V and stepping out. Okay, so creating a V, step out. Creating a V, step out. Okay, let's try that again. Creating a V, step out. Great. So this is bringing us into a near shoulder stance posture, okay, where our feet are basically close to shoulder width apart. Okay. So what I'm going to do with Shogun is the first thing is we just do a body scan. Okay, so we're just feeling how our body is, starting from the top of our head, going all the way down to the bottom of the feet, just like there's this horizontal green laser line that's just slowly scanning your body, wherever there may be any tension, wherever there may be any emotional problems, mental problems. So anything physical, mental, or emotional that you are noticing as you're scanning your body, you may feel that they come up in pockets. Okay, so you may feel that there may be certain pockets of tension, of stress, strain. If there is, that's okay. It's exactly why we're doing this exercise. Once we detect where those particular pockets are, we're now going to do what's known as Shogun. And again, this is a Qigong ancient practice. It's basically referred to as collecting work. Okay, so what we're doing is we're collecting the work of the debris and depositing it directly into the lower dantian, or the navel, where it digests all of that energy and purges it appropriately throughout the body. So bringing our hands up, as I'm just going to demonstrate it as we're inhaling, bring it to the top of the crown and slowly exhale. And just feeling like the hands are collecting those pockets of debris and just coming down to the navel, where we just pause for 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, and let go. Okay, so second demonstration, breathing in and breathing out slowly, collecting all of those pockets of tension, surrendering them, releasing them into the dantian. 1, 2, 3, and let go. Okay, so let's do that together now. Inhale. Exhale, collecting all of those pockets of debris and bring it into the navel. 1, 2, 3. Second time, inhale. Exhale, collecting the pockets, bringing it down to the dantian. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Exhale, collecting at the dantian, and let go. Great. That's all we have to do. Plain and simple. So that is also a very good technique to helping yourselves out with surrendering, right? Doing release work. That is always a wonderful technique. Like I said, it is an ancient Qigong technique that has been around for thousands of years, has helped people. Again, we basically do that technique before we do a Qigong practice and after we do a Qigong practice, as that really just sanitizes, cleanses, detoxifies the energy, right? Sometimes if we're noticing that maybe we're doing something a little too strong, if we're doing something a little too weak, then we will often do Shogun, help collecting all of that, putting that into the dantian center. Very good. Okay, guys, so now we're going to go ahead and get started and move on into the communication with Adronis. So I'll just be a moment here. Close off some of my windows here. There we go. All right. So again, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you want to join us here on the Zoom chat, and basically you'll see my pinned post there on the top chat there. Just click on that link. That will take you to the Zoom, and you can join us here. And if you have questions you want to ask Adronis, you can feel free to ask questions. Again, I'm not taking questions on the YouTube chat. It is just questions here on Zoom. Okay, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to bring Adronis in, and then we'll get started. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. Looking forward to the transmission that is going to be shared today. So I'll go ahead and we'll begin. Here we go. Hey, Soul Star. See ya. Adronis. We are here at this time. We bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. What we'd like all of you to do at this time is simply allow yourselves to get relaxed, get comfortable, and tune in to the vibrations of Sirius so that you may synchronize, harmonize, and align to all of the information that we have to share. Also understand that all of the information that we shall provide today is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very hearts, beings, and souls. We will speak to you a little bit prior to the idea of your question and answer period regarding the topic of the cycle of incarnation. So when you look at the nature of incarnation, there is a lot of discussion that even goes back into your ancient times. It goes back many thousands of years. Of course, there are always beliefs. There are always considerations about the idea of what happens when this body passes away. What happens when this body kicks the bucket? What happens to me? What happens to the body? Am I able to come back again? Is there another body waiting for me in the wings that I can easily occupy? So again, there are many forms of discussions, even in regards to your ancient literature, about the nature of reincarnation. Now, we really do not utilize the term reincarnation. We utilize the term as simultaneous incarnation, because you have an infinite amount of bodies available to you right here, right now, in this moment. And what we would say is that you do not need this body to perish to exist in other bodies. But because you have been very much in tune with this body specifically, and you are working together with the linear fashion of this life, understanding the physical, working with the physical senses, having physical laws, having physical rules, looking much more into a separate self-ego. This is actually what contains you more inside this body. Adronis, are you saying that I can be simultaneously aware of countless bodies that I am in alignment with? Yes, completely. So this is where many falter to that idea, is feeling that they just have this body in this lifetime, and after this lifetime is done, well, then I can go and get another body. That would be a misconstrued idea. It's more so in the nature that you have an infinite amount of bodies available to you right now. And that while you are still living in this body, you are also able to function in a multitude of other bodies that you can therefore participate with. It is not in the idea of thinking that I must let this body perish. I must let this body expire. And then I just go hop in another body and there it is. Well, you may create that type of linearity in that thinking, and many of you do. You think again that I am only in this body, I can only be in this body, and this body is all that there is until this body passes away. And then I go and I get another body and I pop back into Earth again. No, it's not really work that way. Now, you're somewhat on the right track, but not entirely. As we stated, you have an infinite amount of bodies available to you right here, right now. The cycle of incarnation represents a school. It is a training ground. This is why we say that the cycle of incarnation is a wheel, and that wheel is a training wheel. Just like how you are a youngster and you have your first bike and your parents attach the two training wheels to that bike so that you are able to stabilize yourself. Well, this is all incarnation is doing. Incarnation, in its own essence, represents a compensation to helping you understand life. Incarnation is the training wheel that's helping you to understand life in all of its brilliance by working together with all of the facets of the life. Now, the life itself does not just have to include human bodies. It includes bodies of every particular type. You could have animal bodies. You could have insect bodies. You can have bodies within nature, trees, plants, shrubs, blades of grass. You could have mineral bodies, bodies that are made out of mineral substance. You can have elemental bodies existing as water, fire, air, earth, and so forth. You have off-worlder bodies, you could say, bodies that exist beyond this earth, that are on other planets, that are in other dimensions, that are on board ships. We've also talked about what is known as stasis bodies, where there are those who have particular bodies that are in suspended animation, basically in a type of comatose state, where they have, in that sense, projected their awareness past that body and have, in that sense, come and incarnated here in this body, while that body is in suspended animation. And many of you may return to that particular stasis body once you have concluded with this lifetime. Some of you may have already seen your stasis bodies in suspended animation already, where you may look at this type of pod and that there is a type of amniotic fluid or fluid similar to that degree, where you are now seeing this body that is contained inside this pod. You may have had dreams about that. You may have had visions, experiences of that. This is very correct. There are specific vessels or arcs, as we call them, that contain, as you would say, thousands or even millions of beings contained in suspended animation, because many of them are actually working together, not just on the Earth, but on other planets and other dimensions as well, too. And it looks very much like a patient that has gone into a comatose state. Only in this case, it is what you would know as a safe comatose state. It is the pod that they are actually in that assists in generating and maintaining the comatose effect, while your essence, as it were, is contained through here upon this planet, upon here on Earth as a human being, performing what you're here to do. So you have basically projected your own consciousness from one body onto another, working together here. And then once you conclude here, you will therefore return back into that stasis body. That again is one instance. But what we're talking about is even going a little bit more deeper than that. As we have said, that when you are able to appropriately attune yourself, you're able to thin the veils out from your own segregated self vantage point and seeing yourself much more in a state of wholeness, you will realize that you have an infinite amount of bodies, which means there is a version of you that can just walk upon the sands of a distant world. There's a part of you that can operate on a spacecraft. There's a part of you that is a dog existing in Norway. There's a part of you that is another creature that is existing on your own Earth's moon. There are versions of you that are angelic, beautiful, divine, existing in the higher planes of reality. These all are happening at the exact same time. It is not the idea of saying that this is 10,000 years ago, this is 10,000 years in the future, because you're all looking at it right now. You may look at that in that state of a time instance, but in actuality, time itself is nothing but a veil. It's nothing but a magnetism. And that you can, yes, bypass time. You can go past those particular veils and see a menagerie of different bodies that you are all able to occupy simultaneously. While you are aware of your own Earth human body, you're looking at all of these other different bodies that exist throughout different domains. And that these particular bodies can even communicate with you, and that they can actually share energies together with you. And in fact, you can also incorporate and integrate much of their qualities together with this host body as well, because this is precisely what we have done with Brad. Throughout the years that he has been communicating with us, we have come closer and closer into the nature of full integration. And that is primarily what has happened right now. Brad no longer needs to see us as an outside being, as somebody that's outside of him. It's the idea that we, together with him, are now one. It is a full integration because of the realization and opening and welcoming of each other's energy into each other, to which has been done. So we are fully integrated together with Brad. Now, you also have the ability to be fully integrated with these bodies, which means you can take on their qualities, you can take on their abilities, you can take on their capabilities to a certain extent based on how open your body is, to how activated your body is. So you may have a very intelligent, wise, in that sense, perhaps even technically adept version of yourself that you are now able to see upon another planet. And now that the veils have thinned quite a bit, you're able to talk to that version of yourself quite often. And you're able to meditate with that version of yourself. You're even able to feel like you're holding their hands. You're able to feel their heart together with yours. And as you continue to progress with this day by day, over time, an integration happens. It's like a crossing of a bridge that's merging back upon itself. The bridge is folding up until it really is just one bridge. Two bridges coming together and melding together into a single bridge. Well, this is exactly what has happened between us and Brad. And this is something that can happen with your bodies, should you wish to do that. That you are seeing other versions of yourself, other reflections of yourself, and that you are spending time with those bodily reflections, with those other personalities that represent yourself, and you are harmonizing them together so that everything together with you is an integrated nature between yourself and the other bodies, the other personalities that you are now converging and bringing into yourself. We have termed this as an amalgamation effect. That through the amalgamation effect, you are integrating all of the greatest qualities of other beings that represent yourself. It's all just you looking at yourself through a hall of mirrors, and that these become integrative. And all it takes really is the openness and the welcoming in of that energy into yourselves. But Adronis, if I did decide to leave this body whenever it's time for that to happen, and I do decide to hop into another body, and I will be able to come back into this earth. Well, this is where we say not quite. Because every time you come upon an earth, it's a different earth. It's not the same earth that you would remember. It's not the same type of experience that you would recall. You are participating in different themed eras of a planet that you may, for example, incarnate on. It's never the same earth. It goes back into what your wise elders would once tell you. You're not able to stand in the same river twice. It's the same thing in regards to the nature of incarnation. Yes, you can incarnate in many bodies because, as we stated, it is simultaneous incarnation. Everything's already available to you. These bodies are already existing right now, right now, right now, right now, right now. But you're going into a domain, you're entering a realm or a plane that is significant for your learning, for what you're here to return to. So it's not about saying that I'm going to repeat the exact same thing incarnationally over and over and over again. No. There are lessons that will need to repeat themselves, but they will always be unique. So again, it's like the river. You stand in the river and there's always water, but where you stand in the river will always be a different river. Where you stand with a whole new body will always be a new body. Where you decide to come upon incarnation again, it will be coming upon a new type of incarnation. So it's never the same. It's always changing. But in a nutshell, yes, you have an infinite amount of bodies to work together with simultaneously. Right here, right now. You do not need to croak to work with those bodies. You can work with them here and now. And the cycle of incarnation is teaching you primarily as a training wheel how to welcome in all life, how to experience all of life, regardless of the body that you occupy, but telling you how to move past the body and seeing the true body as the universe. That every single person that you see is a body of yours. Every single person who you meet, their personality is yours. Every single person you meet, their emotional states are yours. Their characteristics are yours. Their attributes are yours. Everything you see on this planet is you. Everything you see beyond this world is you. You will never stop seeing yourself through every form of life that there is. And that is what incarnation is attempting to teach you. Now, incarnation, in regards to how it becomes harmonized, is you are welcoming the infinite into the finite. The infinite knows nothing of the finite, and the finite knows nothing of the infinite. But you are the medium, the bridge, the center point that is bringing the flow of the infinite into the finite. You are God walking through this land, walking through this earth, and bringing the divinity of the infinite through everything that is finite. It is the cross bridge that connects together, that is helping you to understand I will indeed bring heaven onto earth, heaven being the infinite, earth being the finite. And that is what we are here to do through incarnation. It's bridging the worlds together so that there is harmony through all that exists. But the true realization of yourself does not come through existence. It comes through beingness. It comes through your infinite nature. And when you are one with that infinite nature, now you can radiate that infinite nature throughout life, through whatever body you choose to occupy. We thank you for allowing us to share this information with all of you today. We will now open the floor for a question and answer period. So we invite Killian in, and we shall begin with your segment. Thank you.
Thank you, Adronis. We appreciate that introduction and insight into reincarnation. So I'm going to start with Catherine, who has a question. Adronis, greetings. Many of us have experienced severe shocks and panic. I recently experienced this in an intense situation and have since realized that this mode of operation has been running in what I call background consciousness for a very long while. I was not in my right mind, so to speak. Please tell us how one can overcome this. For me, it was as if a bomb went off emotionally. Suggestions for healing, please. Thank you.
Well, see, your background has come into the foreground, so it's not really background. What has basically taken the back seat is your ability to surrender and to center yourself. That's actually what's taken the back seat. That's what's been in the background. Because if you feel like a bomb has gone off and something so catastrophic has happened, then basically you're putting everything pertaining to duality and tragedy first. That's in your foreground. If it was in the background, you would hardly even notice it whatsoever. So this would not technically be a background instance. It would be a foreground instance. So what you're basically doing here is, number one, you are not running away from your pain. You're not trying to ignore it. You're not trying to turn a negative into a positive or anything of that nature. Just absorb it into the center. That's all you're doing. How do we absorb it into the center? You surrender. You get still, you get silent, and you surrender. So Brad has created a very simple video called the Abidance Method, where you are aware of the challenge that you have. You are aware that you are the one that has this challenge. You are aware of how you feel about it. And you are also aware that you are ready to take care of it. And you surrender to it. And you surrender more. And you surrender more. And you surrender more and more and more until that particular instance no longer has a grasp on you. It is fading away. It is shrinking down until it no longer even exists as any particular form of threat to yourself. So that is the key here. So it is not about the idea of feeling that, well, if I do feel bad, it'll be in the background. It's not in the background, it's in the foreground. So anything that you are reacting to will get your attention. It's right here, it's in front of your face. It is indeed foreground. Now, to clear that out, as we stated, simply involves the nature to surrender. The idea of non-reaction is what's going to give you the grace to surrender to everything. And one of the best ways to go into a state of non-reaction is to calm yourself. So, as you have been performing just prior to our communication of coming on this day of your time, you had what's known as heart rate variability. You have what's known as breath control techniques that are helping your body to become receptive in its own centering process, where everything feels calm and relaxed and peaceful, stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system. And the more that you're able to do this, you will learn that you're not actually reacting to anything that's chaotic. You're not reacting to anything that you feel is detrimental to yourself. Anything is detrimental because of your reactions. Your reactions is what actually makes something detrimental. It's what makes something hostile. It's what makes something chaotic. The way that you gasp at, oh, I can't believe this is happening. How dare it happen? How dare, how dare, how dare? Oh, how could this happen? Oh my goodness, this is horrible, etc. You're constantly reacting to it. Why? Because you're in the sympathetic. You're in the fight or flight response. You're in the fear and danger and caution alignment. And that's what happens quite commonly for those in that sense who get caught off guard. They're still very much in a sympathetic state of being. And that sympathetic state of being is a very fragile state. If anything comes in that basically brings a shock to your system, it's because you're in the sympathetic. You are sympathizing too much with the events in life. And again, this is in the foreground. If it is in the background, you are naturally in the parasympathetic. You are naturally in the calm, relaxed, centered state. So that even if somebody says something to you that you at one point thought was tragic, you would have no reaction whatsoever. Now, that may be quite a shock to them. How could you react this way? You're not even reacting. Didn't you hear what I said? I did. I did hear what you said. And I have given it peace in my heart. They may not understand that, but they do not need to. Nobody ever really needs to understand you because they can't. They do not know who it is they're really talking to. But the whole idea is that you are aware of what you are able to do because you're moving yourself into that tranquility, that ability to surrender and center. You're here. You're in the center point. And that is where the resolution to where everything itself resides. Now, can you work with light healing? Yes. Can you work with crystal healing? Yes. Can you work with Reiki? Yes. Can you work with all these different types of modalities? Yes. As long as they bring you here. They're bringing you over here, 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 over here. No, then that's not working. Anything that brings you back into the complement of your center is the efficiency of helping you come back into your power. It does not always have to come through an externality. It comes through your own inner being. Just the ability for you to think, center, returns you here. Just the ability for you to feel what it is to be tranquil brings you back here. Just the ability for you to work with the breath, just as we are describing, brings you back here. That's all it takes. This is not a complexity. This is not complicated. What we are telling you that represents the antidote to all of your problems is not something that is so complicated that you need a rocket scientist to look into deciphering it. We are telling you something so incredibly simple that it is the natural way. That this is something that your own children can understand. But because you have become so acclimatized to the idea of fear and shock and awe and horror and terror and feeling like you're out of sorts because these situations come, you are so used to trailing off with them and running into the foreground, thinking that I need to resolve this externally. I need to resolve this through my thoughts. I need to resolve this through my actions. No, you don't. Now, here is another misperception. Well, Adronis, if I do what you say, where you're talking about surrender, then basically what you're saying is do nothing. Well, here's an interesting idea. We are, in a way, saying do nothing, but we're saying do nothing when it comes to the ego. We are basically saying you will be able to do something when you let intuition in. You see, intuition is a much more higher frequency. Intuition is what you would know as the product of the higher mind. A thought by itself is actually more of the lower mind. So when you have a thought, you're looking at something that has already transpired. You're looking at something that you can identify with. You are looking at something that you can already recognize, something that has already taken place, something that has already happened. And that's the nature of thought. It's not to say it's a bad thing. It's not. It is fine to think. But here's the situation. If you are only trying to use thought to remedy something that you're attempting to work with right now, you will fail. Because thought is not designed for that. Thought is a reflection. It's memory. It's time. It's something that you can recognize. It's something that you can have rapport with. It's something you can associate with. And that's fine. There are times and places for thought. But when we are telling you to surrender, what you're actually doing is like a cork, you are bobbing yourself back up into the surface of a much higher level of being. And that is to function through intuition. You are moving through a type of ultra instinct. You're being much more intuitively instinctive. And that does not involve any worry, any transgressions of any particular kind, any emotional or mental baggage or conflicts. All of that is expunged because you're now this cork that is now rising itself back up to the surface, which represents the touching tangentially of the higher mind, to which intuition itself represents. So when you ask Catherine your own question about the idea of how can I remedy this? How can we heal this? Well, there's your answer. It all comes down to the nature of surrendering. Surrendering is not the nature of doing nothing. In the other way of putting it, surrendering is helping you to get in touch with the true nature of yourself, where intuitive instinct is your natural flow, which means you're not being bogged down by lower thinking. Oh my goodness, this is happening. Oh my goodness, I'm going to lose my business. Oh my goodness, I'm going to lose money. Oh my goodness, my family doesn't love me anymore, et cetera, et cetera. Where did all those come from? Thoughts, 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 thoughts. Does intuition say any of that? Nope, not at all. Intuition isn't saying that at all. Intuition is made by you being present. It's by you being up here because you're here. It doesn't throw a bunch of worry at you. Doesn't sort of throw a bunch of sadness or anxiety or fear at you. You're present and you're listening to the greater self. And its language is intuitive instinct. And that's what we're teaching you to move into. When you surrender, you're present. When you're present, you are now in the flow of the ultimate language, intuitive instinct. And that's where we're attempting to take you. And once you're there, that's where all of your resolutions happen. We say resolution, but there really isn't even a need of resolution because there's not even a problem when you're up here. Problems exist down here. It's at the bottom of the lake. It's with the bottom feeding. And that's where all the thoughts are. That's where, again, loving souls who have forgotten themselves are bumping into walls. And they're feeding off the bottom of the lake. They have completely forgotten that they have the capability within themselves to do a small jump. And as they jump, they come up to the surface and they start breathing that sweet, beautiful air. And that is the representation of the analogy, representing intuitive instinct. That's where we're attempting to bring you. We want you to come back to the surface because you need to breathe air. You can only hold your breath for so long. Rather than going back down and trying to feed off the bottom, come up to the air where surrendering brings you. All right? We thank you for your question.
Thank you so much for that question, Catherine, and thank you so much for that response, Adronis. We now move on to an anonymous attendee who asks, thank you, Brad and Adronis. I wanted to ask about the UFO whistleblower and what would come from this situation. Will the public start asking questions or government release statements or slowly release the technology itself publicly? Thank you.
We would say that all of these have already happened. Many of these things have already transpired. In fact, many of you talk quite a bit because there are those of you who are discovering that there is actually documentation through your own government agencies that have basically admitted to the existence of what you would know as off-world intelligence. It's already been admitted. There have already been groups that are, again, in discussions about extraterrestrials or UFOs, as you term it. This has been happening for quite some time. It's really no longer a mystery anymore that you are, again, surrounding yourselves with teeming life that exists on, within, above, and beyond your world. So it's not really a secret anymore. Now, the whole idea is that people want to feel like they're going to take it to the next level, that they need to hold some sort of worldwide press conference, and that they need to officially announce it. No, that is not going to happen for quite some time. But if you are able to dig enough through your own means of research, you will discover very much like what we have talked about. It is your own FBI, it is your own CIA, it is your own NSA, it is your own European Space Agency that have basically come clean and shared certain things about off-world intelligence in that manner of speaking. But people have to dig for it, you see. Many of you have already seen many ships throughout your skies. You've taken out your cameras, you've taken pictures, you've taken video. Some of you will even go beyond that. You will go to your rivers, you will go to your mountaintops, you will go to your forests, you will go to meadows, you will go to these places where there's very little human activity. You will work together as a group. You will meditate on yourselves to telling exactly where you are, shall we say, geographically upon the planet, and putting out a pulse. And through that pulse, you will notice that there will be ships that will actually interact with you. That you will say, make a figure eight, and you'll see them making a figure eight. What do you think that is? A satellite? What do you think that is? A star or a planet? No, that is your family. It's when you are able to basically just make a thought and they will respond. That is what you would call a genuine contact. It is not the idea where you're trying to put an intention out and something is still moving along and it's not reacting to you. That would not be a genuine contact. Quite commonly, that can be satellites. Quite commonly, that can be other forms of terrestrial vehicles. The ones that you know you interact with, that interact with you, is the direct contact. Now, we are aware that there are millions of you who have had these types of successful encounters. That you go out into your night sky and that you start talking to the conveyance that you see upon the sky, and it starts flashing its light. It may start doing certain movements, as we've talked about, but it may actually start to come a lot more closer to you, and you will start to feel this download taking place. That, again, is the nature of a genuine encounter. Because there are also many of you that are just seeing satellites. There are also many of you who are just seeing terrestrial craft flying by. By that, we would often refer to this being spacecraft belonging to your secret space programs. The secret space program spacecraft don't really interact too much. You may see them in the sky for a certain amount of time, but then they will vanish. They are not that much, as we would say, in tune for a genuine interactive encounter with yourselves. So you have a lot of phenomena that resides within your atmosphere. You have terrestrial technology. You also have extraterrestrial technology that also resides within your atmosphere. You have bases within your atmosphere that are much more, shall we say, off-world technology. If many of you just think that all there really is just the International Space Station, you would be sorely mistaken. There are a great deal of infrastructures, of installations, of orbital platforms that are basically in pocket dimensions. They may show themselves every now and then, and you may actually mistake them for some type of bright star or some sort of large presence that is here and then gone. But we will say that if you are able to see past your own physical veil and see exactly what is all around you, you would see that Earth is saturated with presences that are beyond this world. You would see ships all around you. You would see orbital platforms, conveyances, installations all around you. You would see certain forms of porthole technology all around you. You would see singularities. It would basically be such a, shall we say, overwhelming situation because it's something you're not used to, unless, of course, you're able to naturally surrender. Then you'd be able to truly welcome it in. But as we have said, everything throughout your planet is covered and teeming with life. Earth is very much a curious planet, and there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of different beings that are watching you all the time. You also have many different beings that are here on the surface with you, walking around you all the time. And you would not pay any attention to them, but they're there. And they're here well within the millions. You have a lot of off-worlders walking your streets all the time, day in and day out. They're even in your common jobs. Some of them will simply come here and they'll work in a cafe. Some of them will come here and they'll work in your political arenas. Some will work here and they will be athletes. And they will again have a life here on the planet. And they have everything in regards to what you would know as your commodities. They have everything in regards to what you would know as your identities, because you would not even be able to tell the difference between them and yourselves because they look just like you. Do they look like that in their natural form? Not everyone. There are those in that sense who may have different facial features. There are those in that sense who have different organizations of internal organs. There are those in that sense that may have different types of teeth. There are those in that sense who may have different complexions of skin, but they have basically remedied themselves to feeling that they are, in that sense, much more intact with the human appearance, even though they may be human or humanoid, but they are basically able to remedy any differences about themselves. That can be done holographically, that can be done cosmetically. Some of them will actually have human bodies in stasis that they will be able to occupy and come right down here. In fact, there's quite a few of them will be watching this broadcast right now. You're not by yourselves. You never have been. Your off-world family, we will put it, has been with you since the very day you came on this planet, and even before you came on this planet, they've been here. You've never been by yourselves. But because humankind represents an experiment of sorts, 1 out of 6 that we are aware of, then there needs to be this time where you need to get to know who you are through your own experiences, through your own encounters, through your own walking through life. So to answer your question, there is already what you would term as extraterrestrials, off-worlders that are around you all the time. And there is no intention for any of them to leave anytime soon. They are with you while you are here, and they are going to be with you when the time comes where you will migrate to other planets. We have always been with you. And we've even been here before you came along. All right? So there's a little bit of perspective for you all together. We thank you.
Thank you to the anonymous attendee for that question, and thank you, Adronis, for that response. We're going to do one more written question and then move on to those who would like to speak to Adronis directly. We move on now to BB, who asks, "Hi, Adronis. Some members of my family are now withdrawing from me, which makes me very sad. I can't see why they would do that. Does this mean that their soul contracts with me have ended? I hope you can shed some light onto this and appease my mind. Thanks."
You see, your intellectual curiosity is going to bring you no comfort to these ideas. Do you see what we're talking about? That again, you go to the bottom and you're trying to use your thoughts to bring you comfort when in fact they can't, because that's not within their nature to do, because they are not present. They are always looking at what is in the past. This is what we're talking about. You're feeding off the bottom of the lake and you're not coming to the surface to get those breaths of fresh air and to get clarity. What your family decides to do is basically their own path to do. It is not for you to concern about it. You love them no matter what they do. You see, that's the true nature of love. I'll only love you if you love me back. That is ego. That is arrogance. And there's not even a drop of love that is touched in that particular type of situation. You're always expecting something back. And that is ego. That is separate self-consciousness. That is attachment. That is possessiveness. I'll only love you if you love me. That's an immaturity. That's not love. So, when you are truly in love, you could have the person who you love completely be set off by you, and that they would hate every single fiber in your being. But you absolutely love them. It doesn't bother you whether they love you or not. It only matters that you have the greatest love for this one, because you truly see the divine in them. You see their soul, you see their heart. And there's nothing they could ever do that would ever jeopardize that true, genuine love that you have for them. You see, that's the true maturity, because that's love in motion. That's what it is to love. You love someone with all of your heart. You don't care what they do. They could be a thief. You still love them. They could murder somebody. You still love them. You see, this is where you become convoluted and thinking that, well, because they don't love me back, I guess I shouldn't love them back. Or I guess I just get sad because they don't love me. You're still looking for acceptance. You're still looking for that idea of trying to appease someone. Oh, we don't love you anymore because you're following the spiritual work, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, no problem. But I love you with all of my heart, and I always will. What do they say to that? They can't say anything. I would say mother, father, brother, sister, best friend. I love you with all of my heart, and I don't care whatever you decide to do in your life. You will never, ever lose that love that I have for you. What could they say to that? Nothing. So that is the idea here. Love them regardless of how they see you. You see, that is how you know you truly love someone. They could do all kinds of horrible things. Doesn't matter. You are in love with who they are. You see their divinity. You see their heart. You see their soul. You see their bright, shining light, even if they don't. How do you think it would be if the divine acted that way with you? No, I'm not going to serve you because you don't love me, so I'm not going to give you anything. The entire nature of reality would come undone. You see? It is the idea that when you are able to bring about true love and you share that with another, that is the ultimate gift. You don't need anything because it is that love you have for that one that is the greatest gift of all. So when you notice, and again, this is not the first time we've heard this, we've heard thousands of you ask us the exact same question. Adronis, my family really doesn't like me anymore because I'm following the spiritual path, because I won't get vaccinated, because I won't have this, because I won't have that. What do I do? Nothing you need to do. Be yourself. If you're pretending to be something you're not, then you are being just as lost. Be yourself. It is not about you feeling you have to change yourself into something you're not so that you get accepted. Because what does that do? That creates torment. That creates suffering. Because you are constantly living a life of someone who you know you're not. And you will get all forms of slings and arrows shooting at you because you are behaving as somebody who you're not. If you truly love a person, that's enough. There's nothing else you need to do. The love speaks for itself. So rather than going into the bottom and saying, oh, why are they doing this? Is this their soul contract? Is this what they're doing? Has this happened to me in a past life? Where are you when you're asking these questions? Where are you on the scale? Does intuitive instinct bring that to you? No. Does thought bring that to you? Yes. You're at the bottom of the lake, feeding off the bottom of the lake, holding your breath, trying not to suffocate. Let it go, surrender, and come to the surface and get that clean, fresh air and let the instinct of intuition flow into you. I will always love my parents. I will always love my family. I will always love my friends. I will always love every single thing, every single one here on the earth, because it is my nature to do so. And you're not concerned about it. Whether someone cannot return your love is not the end of the world. But you think it is. Because you have been conditioned to think, well, if I love somebody, well, they better love me back, or else. That is immaturity. Just love someone for the sake of loving them. It doesn't matter if they love you back. If they love you back, great. Doesn't matter. What matters the most is my love for them. It's not about saying, well, I'll love you with all my heart, but you better love me back. And there is the immaturity. There is the ignorance and the arrogance. There is the ego at work. You see? So it's not about that. Whether your family has a hard time of seeing you and how you conduct your life or not, doesn't matter. Love them because you know you truly do. And that is all you have to continue to do, is the ability to love, because it is the reflection of your natural self to do so. All right? We thank you for your question.
Yes, thank you for that question, BB, and thank you, Adronis, for that wonderful insight into the nature of unconditional love. We don't seem to have any participants who have their hands raised. So for those of you who would like to speak to Adronis directly, just a reminder to raise your hands. In the meantime, we're going to continue with the written questions. We move on now to, apologies, I lost my place, just one moment. We move on to an anonymous attendee who asks, Adronis, thank you. I'm doing the work going within, and I'm having a hard time finding my mission or gift here on Earth. I've always been drawn to animals and healing. What do you think? Thank you.
Well, then you've already found your gift. Simple as that. If you are drawn to animals and healing, but you feel like you're having a hard time finding your gift, why do you add that last little bit? I am drawn to animals and healing. Well, here's the idea. Why not taking the healing work that you're doing and work with animals? You see? You've already figured out your question just by adding that last little bit at the end. So other than that, that's what we would suggest, is look towards your gifts, in that sense, your own naturalness of being able to work with animals through the healing that you prefer to work with. All right, simple as that.
Thank you, anonymous attendee, for that question. We move on now to Hanane, who asks, can you please tell us how the Palace of Versailles was built? Thank you.
The Palace of what?
Sorry, the Palace of Versailles.
We are not familiar with what you would speak of. So we would need to have a little bit more definition in regards to the palace, to which we could tell you a little bit more once that is given.
Perfect. Hanane, if you want to elaborate a little bit, we'll return to that question after that elaboration. Thank you. In the meantime, we do have somebody who has their hand up. So now I'm going to go over to John Hines. John, I'm going to allow you to talk. Go ahead and unmute your microphone and begin speaking when you are ready. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Hello, John. Yes, we can.
Okay, hi, how's everybody doing?
We are perfect. How are you?
Very well. I just have a quick question. My question is more on, I kind of feel like I feel like I was following maybe some people call it like false light teachings, and I might have come across things that seem like they weren't, of my highest good for the highest intention.
Do you
It
have an
seemed,
example? Do you have an example of such a teaching?
yes, it was something called, it was like transpenial induction. It had something to do with like scalar waves and Vecca codes. And it seemed like it caused distortions. I don't know if it's in the subtle body or the soul blueprint or
Yes, you see,
something like
this is
that.
what people call taking the red pill. And
Yes.
thinking that you have to do these particular types of shortcuts technologically in some way by moving into some type of transpineal operation. And that, again, as we stated, is not a genuine path.
Yes, I understand that now. I thought it was, I was
No,
unaware.
it is much more in the alignment that there are actually, shall we say, certain forms of artificially intelligent sources that will come through attempting to bring about this information for someone to get into, so that in that sense that they would only distort themselves more, and then they would pass it on to distort more. So it's basically what you would know as a type of slandering campaign.
Is there a practice or a way to remove distortions or restore the original, I guess the original blueprint, or
Well, we would suggest in that sense being immersed in nature a lot more, because nature resets everything. So we would suggest going out into the forest. We would suggest going out into the park. We would suggest finding a tree that you feel very comfortable with, sitting with that tree, stating your intentions, and letting the tree do the work to completely detoxify any harmful scalar waves that have already happened to you. And that will basically happen. Now, the reason why we suggest nature and the reason why we suggest a favorite tree is because the healing effect that comes together functions through a particular degree of horizontal wave bands. And through, in that sense, a saturation of horizontal wave bands that is able to clear away anything pertaining to hostile vertical bands. that can represent the nature of certain scalar frequencies that are again set off in a much more vertical format. So by immersing yourself in nature to where the pristine nature of the horizontal wave resides, being able to, as you would say, have forest bathing yourself in that vibration is very much the antidote to clearing yourself, to moving yourself much more into a harmless centering of yourself, rather than being bewildered by harmful vertical frequencies. All right.
Okay, I understand. Is there any other practice or anything else I can do,
So
or
you are not satisfied with walking in a park or a forest?
No, I definitely am. I would
You
like
don't
to know.
think that it's going to do enough for you?
I definitely ground a lot. But I haven't tried,
Yeah, but we're
studying.
not talking about just grounding here. We're talking about actually going to a tree that you feel deeply connected with, putting your hand on the tree and letting the tree heal that. What the tree does, firstly, it will hear you. It will know exactly what you require. It will actually sense that vertical field within the pineal. And it will work together with its own natural life force to cleaning that out, you see? This is why we would suggest it.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you very much.
It's not just, as you would say, walking barefoot on grass. That's not what we're telling you to do. We're saying for you to locate a specific tree to which you feel a pull towards. And that tree is going to be the tree that is going to function as a healing tree that will help to remedy all of the barraging scalar frequencies that are vertical based towards them. Should you want a second option, then you may want to look into etherics technology.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Questions?
Thank you, John. We appreciate that question, and we appreciate that you are here now with us. Thank you. As there are no more hands raised, I'm going to move once again back to the Q&A section. So we now move on to Liliana, who asks, she has a few questions. Hi, Adronis. I've been feeling discomfort in my liver and spine. Does fasting or intermittent fasting boost longevity in our physical body? Additionally, who's communicating with me during my sleep? Thank you.
Well, that would be a barrage of beings. So I really could not give you one name. The whole idea is that you are able to go through a veil of different experiences all the time through dream time. But in that sense, you would have a lot of connections to what you would know as your higher guides that operate much more in the higher astral planes, and that they would appear very much as angels. One of them would refer to themselves as Renee. So if you wish to connect with Renee in that particular way, but that is one of many beings that you may encounter during dream time. So you could speak with Renee if you wish. Now, going back into the idea of your spine, of your liver in that particular way, as we stated, the whole idea is that you want to go into the basking of nature. You see, many of you still want a quick fix. Think, oh, if I just do this for 5 or 10 minutes, I sit outside in nature and that's it. No, we are suggesting that you dedicate at least a minimum of 2 weeks going out into nature every single day and being replenished by it and feeling a pulse, a pull to move to a certain area of nature like a tree, and you are discussing exactly what you want the tree to do to you. Feel the tree's energy as a harmonious green light that is flowing through you and is able to detoxify everything. And so if you're having trouble with your liver, if you're having trouble with your spine, if you're having trouble with your kidneys, then that's what you're envisioning to the tree. Heal the spine, heal the liver, heal the kidneys, and you will feel it. And you sit down by this tree that you have felt pulled towards, and you will feel the energy of that tree. And what we would suggest is you come back again and again and again for a course of 2 weeks at least. And after those 2 weeks, you will notice that the tree has been successful in completely regenerating your body. Now, as we've suggested as a second option is etherics, because it's working together with pure source light. It's working together with pure source essence. However, if you want to look into the idea of the nature path, this is what we would suggest first and foremost. Go up to the tree. Tell the tree exactly what it is that you're going through. Show it your liver. Show it your lungs. Show it your spine. Show it your kidneys. Envision it within yourself. And the tree will know exactly what to do. You see, you think that this is not going to help. Oh, because the trees don't speak English. No, but they understand you. They can read your energy just like that. They know exactly what you need before you do. And this is why we say we want you to give yourself at least a good 2 weeks to go into the forest and bathe in it. Bathe in its vibration. It is a horizontal vibration that moves through your entire body to where pain itself operates on a vertical vibration. It's an inverted vibration. And that inverted vibration comes from physical, mental, emotional, stress, tension, and duress. And when you're going out into nature, tell us, when you have taken a 1-hour stroll through a park, and you come back to your vehicle and you're ready to go home again, how do you feel? You feel refreshed. You feel purified just by being in nature for about an hour's time. Now we're telling you, go back into nature for about an hour every single day for 2 weeks, every day. Find the pole to a tree that you feel resonates with you. There's just a pull with this particular tree. I'm going to go sit down by this tree and I'm going to talk by this tree. I'm going to let them know exactly what it can do for me, and it will be done. Why do you think so many of your ancient masters have gone into the wilderness and have come out enlightened beings? Have you ever given that a thought? Now, are you able to go into the suburbs of your metropolises, your giant cities, sitting by a building, watching all the traffic go by, watching people screaming at each other, watching the filth that is all around the alleyway that you're sitting in, and being able to go back home and feeling refreshed? No, you're feeling tense. You're feeling aggravated. You're feeling anxious. You see, that doesn't work. So this is why we suggest nature. It's available to you. Make it available to you. Go out into the forest. Feel a pull to a tree. Sit down with the tree. Talk to the tree. Let the tree work with you. Because that is where humanity naturally belongs. It belongs in the wilderness. It belongs in the forest. It belongs with the trees and the animals. That's where you came from. And that is what you need to immerse yourself back to, especially today. You have so many digital technological conveniences that it is damaging your energy field in ways that you cannot even see. But you spend, again, that diagnosis that we give you of 2 weeks to go out into nature, 1 hour every day. And you're actually able to remedy all of the effects that technology has placed on you, causing a detrimental energy field to be present. And it can all be reversed just by doing forest bathing. That's what we're recommending to many of you, to go out and let nature heal you. That's what it's for. She's designed to take care of her children through nature. Yes, you can use crystals. Crystals are part of nature. Yes, you can work with trees. Trees are a part of nature. Yes, you can lay down on the grass. Grass is a part of nature. Yes, you can bathe in a stream. Stream is a part of nature. Go out and replenish yourself in nature. It's all you really need. All right? We thank you.
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Adronis, for that answer. We now move on to Carolyn, who asks, "Hi, Brad and Adronis. I have a question regarding marriage. Is it an arrangement that was made up by man, or is it God's will? Thank you so much. Many blessings and love to you both.
All right. First of all, you have to understand that it is not God's will to what you would understand. God does not have a desire for you. You have to understand that God knows nothing of the finite world. So how could there be a God's will when God knows nothing but only the infinite? You see, it's where humankind gets confused. This has nothing to do with the idea in that sense, oh, you need to get arranged, this is God's will. This is all going back into religious fundamentalism. The idea of an arranged marriage can have, well, many different forms of facets to itself. There are those in that sense who will go into arranged marriage because at times it can be a divine union if the parents and if those involved are in tune to know that it is so. But others in that sense will go ahead and start an arranged marriage because it will be a convenience, often financially. It'll bring a lot of physical, materialistic perks. That's often why they'll do it. My son is going to go ahead and marry your daughter when they get older. And then our two families will come together. And there's this other family, and they got so much money, well, it'll be great. You see? And that's why it happens. There's something pertaining to a resource representing it. But then there can be those who are actually very much in tune, who can feel the divine union between these two children and would bless these two and encourage an arrangement together with them. So it all depends. There are many different facets of possibilities surrounding such a thing. All right, we thank you.
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Adronis, for that answer. Another anonymous attendee asks, thank you, Brad and Adronis. I want to ask about the, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Abremlin ritual, and if it is possible to harness the full power and abilities of it in these times. And could you talk to us about the magical power of the universe, and do other species or yourself do ritual magic? Thank you. Much love.
We do not perform rituals as you would term rituals to be. You see, rituals basically represent a template. They are template designs. And what they are helping you to do is helping you to align into a certain frequency that is part of the ritual itself, that you can therefore imbue into yourselves. Now, ritual magics in that sense basically are for what you would know as novices or initiates. They are for, in that sense, neophytes that will come into a particular order and basically need to move themselves into certain initiations of energies that will bring them into a higher quality, so that when they become more senior into the organization, they will move into a much more greater capability of what they can establish through the order itself. We do not have an order in any way. In fact, we're not really aware of any associated beings that we work together with that do anything of that nature. Because in that sense, that's not really where we are. And that's not really where they are in that way. The whole idea is that they sample everything through the fruits of their own desires to move deeper into love. But you see, love itself is not a ritual. Love itself is the true nature of your being. So what we are often encouraged to do is always following the greatest path that ensures the greater quality of love itself coming into us. So that may be through certain activities. That may be expressing through art. That may be, in that sense, exploring different dimensions that, again, are reciprocal to the depths of love that we wish to experience, and that therefore comes together. We work much more in a synchronistic notion, and that synchronistic notion comes through intuitive instinct. It does not come through thought. Many of these rituals involve thought, and that's why they are, in that sense, template-based. And they are much more chaotic in that way. It is more so for the one to teach the idea of intuitive instinct to another, because through intuitive instinct, they will rely upon their own basis of, shall we say, discovering what they need to discover to fulfill themselves in the way that they wish to be fulfilled. And that is where intuitive instinct comes from. And that is much more the higher way. The lower way is to work together with the ancient rituals, where again, it may involve certain forms of mantras. It may involve certain forms of scents. It may involve certain degrees of nature, shall we say, working with flowers, working with herbs, and so forth, to which you are in that sense attempting to align yourself into a cleansing vibration. It's not to say it's wrong, it's just that it represents the idea of something that is a little bit more archaic. You are no longer in the era of rituals anymore. You are now in the era of personal discovery. You're able to move much more into an era of intuition because your veils are so thin. If your veils were so thick, we would certainly recommend ritual. We would certainly recommend devout practices. But this is why we say they're quite archaic, because your veils are not this thick anymore. They're about this thick. So when the veils themselves are thinned, the nature of working together with template rituals is really unnecessary. It's not needed. It's the ability to work much more with the nature of intuitive instinct, because that is what you have. Like we said, come to the surface, breathe in the fresh air, and work together much more in that understanding. It's not necessary. It's not to say that it's a wrong path, but you're doing something that would be really no more different than, let's give you an analogy. A person who basically builds a stone car with stone wheels and basically has to use their own feet to pedal, very similar to the amusing comedy you would call the Flintstones. Basically driving a car down the road like that. What would happen? Well, you'd probably get a lot of funny looks. You see, you're working with something that is archaic, doesn't need to be there. You can have a car that has an engine, that has an electronic system that can get you to and fro much faster rather than having to pedal your feet. And that is the analogy we're giving you pertaining to template ritual. You're basically building something very archaic, very out of date that doesn't need to be there anymore, because you have now reached the level where the layers are very susceptible for one to follow intuitive instinct. And when you're actually teaching them about how to be intuitive, just like we're teaching you about the nature of surrendering, you will see everything come together. You will manifest miracles. You will develop such a beautiful life all around you, because you're living much more with intuitive instinct rather than following low base thought. And much of those rituals relate to low base thought, thinkingness, rather than intuitiveness. You see, that's the difference that we are conveying here. We thank you for your question.
Thank you for that question. We now move on to, apologies, I did lose my place. So Hanane has elaborated a little bit on the Palace of Versailles. Her original question was, who built the Palace of Versailles? She said, they say the Palace of Versailles is supposed to be constructed between 1624 1698 for the French royalty. It is a magnificent embodiment of French Baroque architecture. It stands as the most renowned royal palace in France and around the world. The palace, with an impressive count of a number of trees, fountains, and networks of pipes spanning 21 miles, and is one of the biggest castles in the world.
All right, well, we really do not have a name to give you, but we would say that the architect in that sense had much more occult knowledge than anything else. So you would say that the connections to the palace in that way, or to the temple in that way, would represent someone who had strong familiarity with occult nature. All right. What we mean by the occult nature is that they knew about the, shall we say, harmonious geometries, the harmonious architecture that in that sense brought about pristine energy throughout such a structure, through such a foundation. We would say that the architect was male, but we do not have a name that is being given right now. But basically in that sense, we would say that you could look into the nickname vibration of Tor, T-O-R, and that this would represent, again, a particular hint representing occult nature or ancient science that was therefore brought into, shall we say, this endeavor of a project to bring about a harmonious construction of architecture. So the architecture followed the old ways pertaining to that. We would also suggest, if you notice that this particular location is running across a ley line, something for you to look into. When you know that it is, That's why you know it was built in the way it was. For someone who, again, who has the occult architect knowledge to basically empower this particular form of structure that was necessary, being able to notice if it was on a ley line. All right, we thank you.
Thank you, Adronis, and thank you, Hanane, for going back and expanding upon that question to provide some clarity. Thank you. We now move on to Cheryl, who asks, is it necessary to practice veganism or vegetarianism to be able to raise our Kundalini?
Any necessities that you put upon yourself are nothing but beliefs. We want to give that very clearly to all of you right now. Anything that you think is necessity through life for you to have is nothing more but a belief and tendency that you have placed upon yourselves. Simple as that. If you decide to eat a particular type of diet, if you are forcing yourself to eat that, you are in very deep, confined belief. As we have said, you need to talk to your body. Your body is going to tell you exactly what it requires. Now, that could be full vegetarianism. That could be full veganism, but you're doing it because you've talked to your body. You've done it because you've talked to your organs. You've done it because you've talked to your energy fields about what helps you the most. There may be those who eat meat, and basically that is exactly what their body requires. There may be those who are just feeding off vegetables or fruits or grains or even just liquids, and that is what their body requires. You see, there is nothing wrong with the idea of eating meat. Now, let us elaborate on that altogether. As long as there is respect, as long as there is the honoring of the animal who has decided to bring their life to an end so that their body could feed you. You do realize that is exactly what your indigenous people have done for thousands of years. That they would, in that sense, put the life down of a buffalo, but nothing would go to waste. It would feed the people. And they would know that this would bring the important form of nourishment to their bodies. And there are those who will have gardens, and they will go into the gardens and they will douse. They will divinate themselves to realizing what is the good kind of fruit, what is the good kind of vegetables to bring into my body. And they will know and they will apply it. You have developed religions around your food. That's what you've done. Everything in regards to your planet, pertaining to the work that you do, the food that you eat, the drinks that you drink, everything relating to exercise, everything pertaining to your mentalities have become religions. You've put religions on pretty much everything because we call these opinion religions. But I need to have this type of food and I will not deviate from that. Have you actually talked to your body? But no, I don't need to. It's just what I need to do. It's what I have to do. And if I deviate from that, God help me. Religion. Right there. And the majority of you are looking into these things and saying, wow, there really is something here that is actually quite religious. Because many of you are in fear. You're afraid to put something in your body that you would feel is something that you would never consider putting into your body. You never ask your body, but your ego prevents it from happening. You create this square space and you put yourself in there, and you only want the idea of just sanitized goods coming through the walls so that that is all that you have. You don't bother to talk to your body. You don't bother to talk to your energy. You don't bother to listen to yourself. You don't bother to go all the way up into intuitive instinct. And you form religions around everything. And that's why you're so lost. You don't know how to talk to yourselves. And this is why these opinion religions come together. Your veganism, your vegetarianism, your paleo, your keto, all these different things. People want to try a trend. And they think a trend is going to make their body feel happy. No, it's not. What is going to make your body happy is when you learn to listen to it. When you actually talk to it, when you work with divination, when you work with dowsing, when you work with energy work, when you work with body talk, with body testing, with muscle testing, with energy testing. That is when you're actually listening to what the body wants without being so attached to the type of things you put in your body that your ego thinks is horrible, but your body is trying to tell you it's good, it's what I need. But you get so caught up in the ego that you burn the opportunity for it to happen. That is not salvation. That is confinement. Get out of these dietary trends and just listen to the body. If you're a vegetarian, it's because it's what your body wants. If you're a vegan, it's because it's what your body wants. If you're looking into a raw food diet, into a liquid diet, it's what your body wants. If you're incorporating some meat into your diet, it's what your body wants. So we have often said that vegetarianism, yes, is very much a very powerful booster to your body, but there are some vegetables that some bodies can't handle. There are some fruits that some bodies cannot handle. And this is why we say it's very important to just listen to what the body wants, rather than thinking that you know what's best when you haven't even bothered to talk to your body about it. That is what we want to remind you of. Ultimately, it's your life. But when you start to make these incorrect decisions, it is going to come back to you. You need to be aware of that. All right? We thank you for your question. We will take 2 more questions before we conclude.
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Adronis, for that answer. We now move on to David, who asks, hi, Brad and Adronis. I'm very curious to know what could be done with the, and again, I apologize if I mispronounce this, Kozyrev mirror, and what are the full qualities of it? Thank
We are
you.
not too sure what you mean by a Kozyrev mirror.
Okay, David, so if you want to expand a little bit upon that, similar to what Hanane did, and come back to us with a little bit more of an expounded question, we'll return to you. Thank you.
So because there are many different types of mirrors on your planet, so we want you to be a little bit more precise and specific with what you ask.
Perfect. Actually, I just did a quick Google search. Kozyrev mirror in Russian esoteric literature from the 90s is a device made from long sheets of aluminum curled into a cylindrical spiral. It is alleged to focus different types of radiation, including that coming from biological objects when those objects are placed inside of it.
Yes, in other words, it's a space and time device.
Yes, that is that's the idea.
That is something that would represent the idea of the mimicking of the hyperboloid existing within a toroidal field. So it basically would represent, in that sense, certain degrees of, shall we say, higher states, very similar to what you would have in certain psychedelic states based upon the amount of time of exposure pertaining to such a device. So whether you call it a mirror in that sense, or whether you call it a space-time device, or whether you refer to it as a toroidal technology, it's all really the same. So again, this is basically representing a particular type of technology that is helping you to move much more into the higher expansiveness of yourself because of its geometrical arrangement. Aluminum in that sense being much more of a neutralized form that would basically function as a conductor that is appropriate in regards to the necessary states of flow that are inducting in regards to the hemispheres within the brain. If it is a dual device to where you are noticing that it is above and below you altogether, that is basically working together with the Kundalini. So it can also be used in the form of, so we say, certain degrees of Kundalini uplifting experiences, depending on the construction of the device and how it is oriented.
Perfect. Thank you for that response, David. Thank you for the question. We now move on, I apologize, to another anonymous attendee. who asks, Adronis, what do you do and people in your density/planet do every day that is different from Earth? Thank you.
Everything that you would know Earth to be is not even close to what we do. We really couldn't even describe it to you because our lives are very, very, very different from yours. You probably wouldn't even be able to understand it. Now, we've given you a sneak peek at this when we've basically talked about the higher planes. We've given you a little bit of an overview that as we took you through a meditation, that you were able to see much more about overexposure, or the idea of superimposition, where you are noticing that there were overlays of different images coming together through a single image. And that would be somewhat of a representation of how we live naturally. Whereas if you focused on a particular form within the superimposed images or the overlays, that reality itself would stream itself into your awareness. And that you could leave that particular perception behind by defocusing, seeing the entirety of the overlay again, choosing another overlay or overlays, and being able to experience a multitude of different realities at the same time. That is how we exist. We do not have anything like what you would know as your common day. What you basically are going through right now, from how you live, would be what we would consider to be our incredibly ancient past. Incredibly ancient. And that's where you are right now. Now, it's not to say that you cannot go to where we are, but humanity is a very, 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 very young species. You are the new kids on the block, as it were. You are very much newborns. And again, this is what you need to go through to help you get into the growth cycle, to move out of being newborns and start to be toddlers, and start to be children, start to be teenagers, start to be adults. And once you cross a certain threshold, you will therefore teach other civilizations that are very much where you are. And you will notice a lot of similarities to them because they start off linearly. And this is very much like looking at seeds planted in a garden where they're just starting to sprout. They haven't really formed anything just yet, but they're starting to sprout. The roots are now starting to go deeper into the soil, and there might be a little bit of a sprouting of a head. That's where you are. So where you are is very much in the youthful cycle of humanity. Humanity is a very young species. You're very young. You're like babies. And that's why you're being nurtured through the earth, because the earth is your mother. We're helping a little bit here and there, but it's primarily the earth's responsibility to take care of you. We can offer little bits of assistance, a little bit of aid here and there, but the earth evolves, and she evolves very slowly. And humanity wants to evolve so very, very quickly. It's like the tortoise and the hare. The hare wants to speed along and do all these things, and the earth is just taking her time, nice and slowly, nice and gently, just preparing all these things in the background, so humbly and so beautifully. And the hare wants to run and run and run, and wants to dance around, and wants to dance around their mother, and think that they know everything, and think that they know everything. And the mother is just so patient, just going along nice and slowly, while their children are running amok. And the earth is so patient with them. The children are tugging at her dress, and they're throwing mud at her. They're doing all kinds of things that you think would aggravate her. And maybe at times she may get aggravated, but she'll never take it out on her children. That's very much where you're at. You're these newborn babies about to turn into toddlers, but again, you're running amok. And you think you know what's best, and in fact you really don't, until you start moving into the higher mind, until you start moving into the higher planes of realization, because that is where our civilization exists. We do not exist on a planet. We exist within the star of Sirius A, what you know as the dog star, the brightest star within your sky, approximately 8 light years away. That is our domain. That is our plane. You may think, oh, well, Jonas, it's just about a big hot sun, isn't it? No. It is very much a beautiful world. It is a world that you can indeed interact with. It does not have gravity to what you would understand. It does not have the idea of landscapes as what you would understand. It is very much more of a crystalline nexus. And you probably would not even know what we mean by that. That you're looking at everything through kaleidoscopic vision, and that you're able to be everywhere and everyone and everything all at once. And that's what we exist. This is why we're giving you somewhat of an analogy pertaining to overlays of images on top of images. But even that doesn't give the exact idea of how we exist. But it's a start. So we do not have days as you would imagine. There is no day, there is no night to where we exist, because that would involve a solar system. And we do not reside within the farm of a solar system. We exist within the star. So that star manages, administrates, nourishes a solar system, yes, but we are not a part of that. That is something that comes from within our ancient past. Solar systems themselves are farms, they're gardens. This is where life, new life, is nourished. And that there may be ancient life that will come upon that planet that's helping the new life to be nourished along. What you would know in that sense is advanced sentience, to what humanity itself represents. And so you will have much more of the indigenous life of the planet that is ancient to helping the new sentient life along. Because you're, again, as we stated, the new kids on the block. Earth really isn't the idea of you being able to stick around for a very, very long time. You're basically looking to grow up so that you get out the door. Going back into that analogy, where you have a child, and through the childhood years, you are helping to nurture that child along. And then they get older until they get into about their late teens, and then they're out the door. Well, that's basically what's going to be happening with the Earth and you. You're growing up until you're ready to get out the door. And now the galaxy, the universe, is your new landscape. Different dimensions of reality is your new landscape. So that's really what's happening. We would say that you belong on Earth, but you are not indigenous to the Earth. That would be the best way of putting it. Your body certainly is, but the travelers that are inhabiting the bodies really aren't. You're travelers. You are universal travelers. You go to and fro, to and fro, and to and fro. The human body itself is a universal body type. So even though it does contain the elements of the Earth, in fact, it contains much of the elements that you commonly find throughout the entire universe, the souls that therefore are driving these particular vehicles really are not of an indigenous degree to the Earth. Earth is just simply nourishing you. It's certainly helping you to grow and to expand and to move yourself into greater heights. Until you reach a certain point, then the Earth opens their doors, says, okay, you're ready for the rest of the galactic community, go on then, and helping to escort you out. You're an adult now, you don't need to live in your mother's house, go on. And that's where you're going. So moving into this kind of newborn stage, and then coming into toddlers, then coming into young children, then coming into teenagers, and then coming into your late teens, young adults, and now you're out the door. And this will basically be within the span of a few hundred years. We would say between now and the next millennium, to where the majority of humanity will be out the door. And you're now going to start exploring the entire universe. You're now going to have other planets that are going to welcome you. You can still visit Earth, but the majority of the human being population is not going to be the indigenous anymore. It's not really going to be the focus of the Earth, because the Earth is going to focus on other things. You're always welcome back with her for a visit, but you're going to have availability of other worlds to go to. You're going to be able to go into different domains, different dimensions. You're going to have mentors. You're going to have masters. You're going to have helpers. You're going to have guides that are going to assist you first. You're going to have cosmic gurus that are going to help you along the way. Again, we're talking about hundreds of years of time ahead, but that's really where humanity is going. You're meant to grow so that you can go out the door. You're not meant to stay here for millions and millions of years. It's not going to happen. This particular planet has worked together with other civilizations of the ancient past, where they too have grown and then left. And humanity is simply just the next one on the list, because that's how wonderful a mother the earth is. She's so nurturing. She's so patient. She's so loving. And she's so kind-hearted to her children. And you are her children. And she wants to make sure that you're growing well, that you're expanding well, that you're being nourished well. Even though you are harming the earth in many different ways, you're learning past that. The earth is able to forgive you for that. And you will reach a certain level of maturity where now, okay, out the door, go. And now to the stars you go. Because that's really where you belong. You're a cosmic race that has turned planetary because you need to mature yourselves. You were given too much power too soon. And that's what led to your downfall. And now you need to work off that debt and raise yourself back up to a level of maturity where now you can go out the door and now the cosmos is your home. All right? We thank all of you for the opportunity of this interaction. I am Adronis Q&A, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who have tuned in to this broadcast. And we will speak to you again in another perspective of the now. Goodbye. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for a wonderful interaction today. Had a great time. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. I was hoping to hear maybe more from you guys from the audio, right? Let's do that next time, guys. I want to hear more of you on microphone, okay? We only had one person do that. Come on, guys. If you're in the Zoom room, you're here to talk. Don't forget that for next time, okay? So we're probably back in 2 weeks' time on another Friday, and we'll do some more Q&A. Transmissions from Adronis. Okay, and you can join me this coming Tuesday for Newer TV Live, where Adronis will be talking a little bit more about incarnation and the cosmic plan for humanity. Okay, so that is really the big topic for this Tuesday, the cosmic plan for humanity, and a little bit more with incarnation. All right, thank you guys, and thank you, Killian, again for joining in. Killian, great job as always as moderator, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Again, also, for those of you who are following Etherics, I do have some updates that are going to be coming onto the Prana beds and Taurus beds tonight. So go to etherics.co, right? Sign up to our newsletter. It's at the footer of the page, of the homepage, and follow along there as well, too. Guys, we're creating things in Etherics that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. So make sure you follow along with it, right? You're going to be very happy that you do. Take care, guys. Blessings to you all. Namaskar, and may it be well with you. Bye for now.